Hello everyone, hope everybody's doing great today and this video finds in high spirits. I appreciate those of you who be watching this. I hope you enjoy it. And hey, please leave some comments below. I'm sure there's many of you who've already seen this movie, interested in hearing what you have to say about it. Excuse me. And today I'll be talking about American Graffiti. This is a George Lucas film. It was made in 1973, and I'm not really a film expert. So I don't really know if this was the intention, but as I was watching this just a couple days ago, I felt like this was more like meant to be like a documentary. But it felt like a documentary more than an actual movie. I don't know if that's how he intended to shoot it or not, but this is how I got the feeling for it. So for those of you who don't know what American Graffiti is about, American Graffiti is about a group of teenagers who, I assume it's a Friday night, and it's back in the 1950s, and they're going cruising, which means, they're getting together, getting their cars, and they basically just drive up and down the street, and they get in some mischief. They go driving, teenagers back in the day, in this case in the 50s, but even when I was a teenager, you would drive up and down the street, hang out with your friends, maybe try to hook up with a girl, talk to the young ladies if you're a guy, talk to the young men if you're the ladies, and just try to have a good old time. And this is basically what this is about. It follows, I think, a group, off the top of my head, a group of four. You have Ron Howard's character, then you have Richard Dreyfuss's, and you have a guy named Terry and a guy named John, I believe is his name. Can't think of his name right off the bat. So it basically follows these four people and their night out on this Friday night, just cruising the road, and the trouble to get into, and just what it's like to be a teenager during that time period, which it was made in 73. It's obvious it's 1950s. You got great 1950s rock and roll music going on right there. All your classic songs are being played. You got your classic cars. So if you're a car guy or a girl, woman, you get to see all your classic cars in action, driving up and down, and that's really kind of like the atmosphere you get it, especially with I want to say it's the John character. It's the guy who's driving the yellow hot rod car, and he runs into Harrison Ford, and Harrison Ford's part in this is basically like if Han Solo lived on Earth and during this time period. It's basically what Harrison Ford's character is like. He's like another Han Solo type character. He's a hot shot, a ladies' man in this one. I think he has like 2 or 3 different girls that he picks up driving up and down this road with. He picks, he's trying to look for this John character so he can drag race him, race him. And so both of them are kind of like these car guys. Harrison Ford, instead of having that Western vest on, he's wearing a cowboy hat. So it's kind of like one of the early parts that Harrison Ford was in. I don't know if it was his first part, but I think it might have been one of his first roles where he actually had like a big part to this show. So yeah, so it was good to see a young Harrison Ford, and you kind of see maybe the foundation of a Han Solo character in that one, in him. But kind of moving along here. So each character kind of has their own thing. Richard Dreyfuss's character and Ron Howard, they're supposed to be leaving town to go to college, and one of them's really wanting to do it, and then both of them really want to do it at the beginning of the movie, but as time passes on, you see that Ron Howard's character starts to doubt, because he has this girl he likes. And so that's basically what American Graffiti is about. It's these 4 young teenagers, you had that, and Cindy Williams as well, who's Ron Howard's girlfriend. So I guess you could say she's part of the main cast there, and how they spend their night. Richard Dreyfuss is trying to chase this girl that he sees. The John character, he's just driving up and down, just looks like he's just trying to pick up a girl or two, somebody to ride with him for that night. Richard Dreyfuss's character gets into some trouble, mischief. Our nerdy character Terry here, he gets into some trouble as well, and it's just about what teenagers did when they cruising. So in that case, it's kind of like a documentary, and even the audio of this kind of makes it feel more like a documentary than an actual movie, because there's parts of the audio where it's like really loud, and then where other parts where you can barely hear people talking, and the music's uneven, like uneven in the way like it can be really loud too, and then it's kind of soft. And I don't think it's intentional. Even with the audio when people are talking, I don't think it's intentional. I don't know really what's going on. Maybe because it could have been because it's kind of rushed. But I believe I remember right. I knew it was shot at nighttime, and I think they had to do it in like a short period of time. I want to say like a month, but I could be wrong. Maybe 2 months or something like that. But they didn't really have a lot of time, and it felt like this was rushed. You can really tell on the audio part of this, where people are. You can tell that it's not purposely that the sound, the audio is soft. It's just maybe the equipment of the day, or just how it was at that time. And like I said, the music is the same way. Sometimes you can hear the song really well, and sometimes it's kind of low, but you can kind of feel like it's supposed to be loud as well. But I would say, if you like 1950s music, I love 1950s music. I love that genre of rock and roll, and I recognize all the songs. So it does really have great music to it, and it's a fun watch. Seeing how these characters interact and the trouble they get themselves into during the night. But I would say that you can really tell that this film has aged. I mean, it was in May 1973, just because, like I said, the audio and some of the transitions from scene to scene is very choppy. I feel like very abrupt. This is just from me. I'm not a film expert, but I just, as a common viewer, it kind of feels that way. And like I said, I'm not a film expert on the audio, but there's some average person when you're watching this, you're going to see it as well, that you can hear it real clear and not so clear in other parts. And I don't know, maybe it was just Netflix, but I think I have noticed this before. I've seen this movie a few times before, but it's been a while. And so when I do these retro reviews, there really are like movies I've seen before, but it's been like a long period of time. And so it's kind of like I try to my best when I do these compared to what I thought about it the first time I watched, what I remember seeing it from when I first time I watched it until recently. And when I first time I watched it, probably over a decade ago, because when I do these retro reviews, I try to pick movies I haven't seen for a long time. And so I enjoyed it. I was probably first time I'd seen this, I was probably in my 20s. And so I could really relate to the characters, because cruising was still a thing when I was in high school, but it was starting to die out. So I knew what these people were going through, and having gone on a couple cruises myself, it kind of felt like they really, like George Lucas really did capture that time period, that atmosphere. I don't know, like if today's youth would really relate to this movie, because I don't think they really go cruising very much, like I said, it was kind of dying out, and that was in like the late 90s, at least in my hometown. It was kind of dying out a little bit, and people were actually, if they wanted to go on a cruise, were leaving my town to go to another town to cruise there. I think because, well, I don't know what the reason was. I was going to speculate, but I don't want to speculate. Anyways, that's either here or there. Let's go back to this movie here. However, if you're a youth and you want to see, and you heard about your parents and they talk about cruising, and their grandparents about, how they used to go out Friday nights and cruise and stuff, this is a great show for you to watch. It's kind of like I said, it's kind of like a documentary, how it's kind of filmed. I kind of feel like I was watching a documentary at times, but it does capture like the atmosphere of what kids were doing at that time, like why they would go get in a car and drive up and down. I mean, there wasn't really much other entertainment at that time. We didn't really have cable TV, you didn't have video games, but it was just a way for the kids to have fun, listen to a radio. I had to get on Wolfman Jack there. Back then, back in the day, you actually had real disc jockeys that would interact with their audience in between songs and such, and you really get this with Wolfman Jack, and how the kids could relate to him as he did his broadcast. I think George Lucas did a fantastic job, really did a fantastic job of capturing dark culture. And I think for those older generations, though, I'm a Gen Xer and, down, Gen Xer down, I guess, or maybe above, I don't know. Gen Xer down to like the boomers and stuff like that. They would really relate to this show more. And that's part of why it was such a massive hit. But I don't know if it's really intended for like if you were my kids' age, who are teenagers. I don't really see them really enjoying this. It can be kind of slow for them, and I don't know if they can relate to that culture that was back in those days. So what we'd like to do here, we're going to end this. Going to give this a grades on our channel. On this channel, we give 3 grades. We're very a positive channel. We give highly recommend, which means it's a fantastic film. Everybody's going to love it. Recommend, which means this is your okay movie, and recommend with caution. I'm going to give this like 2 grades here because of the generational thing going on. I think, like I said, if you're a Generation Xer and lived before, I would highly recommend. I think you would love it. It does have its problems, like I said, with the audio. Sometimes it's hard to hear, and then sometimes it's really loud, and it can be all in the same sequence. And then the cut scenes, from transitioning from one scene to the next scene can be seen, at least to me, kind of rough. And but it does have its faults. But I'm still going to give it a highly recommend for Generation X and older. If you're a younger viewer, I'm going to recommend this with caution. This film's definitely showing its age. But if you like old films, you would definitely like this one. It could be a little slow for you. Might not be able to relate to that kind of culture, but it'd be good for you to learn. Hey, maybe you'll watch it, and maybe you can be a trendsetter. Maybe you can bring that back, because there's nothing wrong with cruising to a point. As you'll see in this movie, there are some things that they probably shouldn't be doing, these kids and such. But it was a great movie to see what life was like for teenagers back in the day. So I hope everybody enjoyed this video. Have a great day, and until next time, bye.